Hi, sir.
Hi, Tanishq.
Hi, sir. Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. So, Tanishq, do you know what we do? Have you read about our company?
No, sir. Actually, I
No,
know
it's
that.
okay. Expected that. Thank you. Thank you. Our company works on healthcare. So we have patients who use our app, look at their disease diagnosis, connect with doctors. And we as a hospital are very particular about giving only reliable information to our patients. So you understand reliability and not making mistakes is something that we have to do, otherwise we'll get sued. So please tell us how we can use AI to cut costs, automate processes, but still keep our patients.
Sir, so if you want reliable, right? If you want useful, basically, and you want it to not give wrong answer, then, sir, there is this thing called, sir, evals. I have started learning it recently. Evals.
Can you
Evals.
describe that in more detail? Can you just give me a brief demo on the board? So Tanishq, how do I make an app which is very reliable, very secure, and still uses AI?
So as we all know that AI is non-deterministic, but there are still two things that you can do to ensure reliability in your AI agent or AI system. So in every agentic AI or AI application, reliability equals to observability plus evals. If we can ensure these two things before going into production or at the time of testing and all of that, then we can ensure that our system is reliable and it can be used at high risk areas like healthcare or finance, whatever we are talking about.
Okay, now could you define what do you mean observability? Is it similar to what has been happening since forever?
Yeah, it's the same things, but here what we are observing is different. So we talked about an agent, right? So an agent has a lot of nuts and bolts. It has a system prompt, it has tools, right? So whenever I'm making a decision, so I have the instructions stored here and I have all the tools listed here, right? So I need to store the response of the tool, how many times the tool is being called for a particular query and all of that. So I'm storing all these things that comes under the umbrella of observability. Previously, we used to store logs and all of that, right? Here we call it agent traces. So we are storing agent traces, and agent traces consist of changes in your system prompt, tools, whatever tools you are calling, whatever response you are getting, whatever decision LLM is making based on the tool response.
And why are we taking these traces? What, we debug them later, or do we like make metrics out of them? What happens?
Yes. So why are we storing it, right? What's the point of storing all this is to evaluate them, right? So if we are not storing, like, what is the decision making that LLM is doing, what are the tools being called, is there any issue with tool calling and all of that, if we are not storing that, then we won't be able to do evals, right? We won't be able to evaluate our system on that.
Okay, now what is evals? So the observability is helping power evals. So what is that?
So previously, in a classical software dev setting, we used to have unit test and all of that, right? QA, there were people in QA who used to do testing and all of that. Evals is basically the QA for AI agents, right? So whatever we are storing here, so QA used to happen on apps, they used to test different settings, different things, right? So here we use evals to test different nuts and bolts of our AI agent. For example, if prompt has any leakage or something like that, if during tool call there is any PII information getting leaked, or if the right amount of tool call is happening, if a certain tool is not getting called again and again despite giving the same information back. So there are multiple things we need to evaluate for our AI agent. So that is basically what evaluation is.
So if I have to go to my engineers and tell them observability, I think they can go and implement it. But what about evals? Is it like unit tests? Is it something else?
So evals, basically, I can share you, let me just make a simple diagram. Here is your LLM, right?
Yeah.
It is basically connected to a certain set of tools, correct? It has a system prompt, right? I am taking a very simple example here. So we have an LLM which is connected to certain tools and it has a system prompt. Now, what is your topmost requirement when you are making an application? Is that the output which is coming out of your agent is correct, right? You want it to be reliable. You want it to be relevant to whatever the user asked, right? Second thing is, whatever your agent is answering on, whatever query it is answering, it should, use the particular context which you are offering through the tools. This also ensures reliability. The third thing is that whatever tools your agent is calling, it is not calling them again and again despite giving the correct answers or despite giving the same response. These are the three things which you need to get upon. Now, what are those three things called, right? In terms of, when we do evals and all of that, what are those three things called? The first one is answer relevancy. Here you ensure that whatever answer is coming, whatever your agent responding to a particular user query, it is basically responding to that particular query itself. The meaning is same. If I am asking you about what is an apple, you are not telling me basically what is a banana, right? You are telling me what is an apple basically. So it calculates the answer relevancy. The second thing is groundedness. Now, groundedness is basically the second problem that I talked about, that whatever your agent is answering for a particular user query, it is catering to the context which was given to it, and it is not, making up answer. It is not hallucinating. So here you calculate the hallucination basically. You can consider it as hallucination calculation. Well, the third thing is tool sequence accuracy. So let's take that for example, whatever we are discussing here regarding the flight booking agent and all of that. So when you are trying to book a flight, what are the particular tools that you will have? You will have, one tool can be get user data.
Yes.
One tool can be do a web search for flights, and the third tool can be a payment gateway where you are making the payment for the flight, right? What if your agent directly goes ahead, does a web search? If your agent is directly doing a web search without getting the user data, then it's a problem, right? So that is what we are handling at tool sequence accuracy. So you collect some data on, you define some data that this is the sequence of the tools which should be there, and then you test your agent if it is following the same sequence or not. So this is the third thing. There are more metrics which you can do, completeness, correctness and all of that, but if you cover these three bases and if your agent is working well on these three bases, then you can consider it as a reliable application.
And who's going to do this evals? Is it humans or is it a machine? Is it automated? What's going on?
So at the time when we were building software dev applications, QA team used to be separate. They used to test an application and all of that. Here, whoever is trying to build the application is the one who should test the application as well. Okay. So that is a change here. So eval should be done by the engineer who is building the application as well, or there needs to be a proper KT session for the eval person to know what is happening inside the system, what is being observed, because this is the important part to go through evals. This is the first step, following up on evals. So this is the thing. And if we talk about how do we do this, right? What system do we use? So these are things where we discussed at the time of QA and all. We used to have some unit tests written, right? And we used to test our application based on those tests only. What is happening here is we don't have a ground truth. At most of the times when we are trying to build an application, it is not necessary that we have a ground truth. Yeah. So we make a synthetic data set on whatever we think is right, following a particular pattern. We generate a synthetic data set, or we create a golden data set, which is by a subject matter expert. And this is the most important part, that you need to sit down with a subject matter expert to create a data set, and you need to evaluate your agent on that particular data set. This is how testing is happening these days. There can be LLM as a judge, as a technique. If we have the correct amount of data, numeric data, then we do quantitative evaluation as well.
Okay, but how exactly do I calculate this answer relevancy, groundedness? What are they?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So what do we need to actually do to calculate these? So for answer relevancy, as I have told you, that this is basically on, if my bot is answering to that particular query only. So I will be using the exact user query and the response. And if you want to make it more useful, if you want to add more dimensions, then you can also use the system prompt basically. So if you have these three things, then you can calculate answer relevance, because it is based upon whatever your bot is responding to, what question is it responding, and what are the instructions given to the bot. Okay. So this calculates the answer relevance.
Okay, and what about groundedness?
So for groundedness, what all do you need? So you need a user query, you need the response from the bot, what it is responding, you need the system prompt, and one more thing which is extra in terms of when you are trying to test groundedness. That extra thing is the context which the bot is getting to answer to the query. So here we need context as an extra thing, and this context can be anything. This context can be the tool response which you are getting. This context can be the thinking which the bot is doing. So whatever context it is following to answer to this user query is needed to calculate groundedness.
So in RAG, this context is going to be the chunks that we pick up?
Yes, in RAG, whatever top 5 chunks that you are getting is going to be the context context, and you have the user query system prompt and everything else that you have.
Agents, the tool responses can be the context.
Yes, the tool responses, because that is basically how the agent is getting the context as well.
Got
So whatever when I'm booking a flight and all of that, so the context which I'm getting is from the tool calls itself. So we consider tool call response as a context when we are calculating groundedness for agents.
If my groundedness is high, what does it say?
If your groundedness is high, then it says that your agent is actually following the context properly. It is grounded in the context, it is grounded in the tool call responses. And what do we need for this tool sequence accuracy is basically whatever we have collected here in the observability, we use the same thing. So we use the tool calls which have been made by the assistant. So there are user and there are assistant, there are two different things basically. Assistant is basically what AI is, outputting.
Yeah.
So whenever my LLM says that you need to call this particular tool and our system makes that tool call, so we get we need the tool calls. And here I have loosely written accuracy, but actually you need to use recall, precision and all of those metrics. Accuracy is just a loose term to represent all of those things.
I think I'll make my system reliable now. Will this help me calculate how many R's are there in strawberry?
No. that's the thing with LLMs, not with your system.
Oh,
That's a problem of the brain, not the machine.
But tool calls can't be done for count the number of strawberry.
Then why are you building a healthcare app?
So how can we integrate AI into our hospital such that it is highly reliable, secure, safe, good for our patients, and still there is some automation?
Sir, hire more nurses, sir.